Welcome to my Sacred Revenge channel, where betrayal isn't just exposed, it's answered.
Hey everyone, I'm Isabella. I'm 8 at the top of my academic game, and I live and breathe ancient cultures and classical artwork. My room's practically a shrine plastered with vibrant prints of forgotten empires and Renaissance masterpieces. I spend hours lost in history books, sketching architectural wonders and dreaming of distant lands. Yeah, I'm definitely that quirky history buff, a world away from my family's everyday concerns. Isabella, dinner's ready. My mother's voice boomed from downstairs, shattering my peaceful solitude. I let out a soft sigh, carefully setting aside my current sketch of the Colosseum. Another family meal. Another hour spent feeling like an afterthought, completely overlooked, almost invisible at my own dining table that my parents rarely seemed to notice my achievements, my passions, or even my presence unless it was to ask me to do a chore. It was always about Chloe, my younger sister. She was the one who demanded attention, who caused the drama, and therefore the one who received all their focus. As I made my way to the dining room, the familiar scene was already playing out. Chloe was engrossed in her phone, likely messaging her latest crush or planning some wild party. "How was your date, Chloe?" Mom asked, her voice brimming with concern, her attention solely on her. It was as if I wasn't even there, a ghost passing through the house. It was totally lame, Mr. Davidson. Gave me detention again. "He's such a jerk," Chloe whined. Pouting dramatically, my father immediately jumped in, his brow furrowed with sympathy. "Don't you worry, sweetheart. We'll have a word with the principal about that teacher. He clearly doesn't understand you," he assured her, already mentally preparing to fight Chloe's battles. I couldn't help but roll my eyes, a gesture no one seemed to notice, accustomed as they were to my quiet reactions. Chloe skips class, constantly disrespects teachers, gets penalized, and they want to blame the instructor. It was the same old song and dance, a classic maneuver in our household. "And you, Isabella? Anything new happening with you?" My grandfather's voice cut through the predictable family chatter, accompanied by a small, knowing wink. He was the only one who consistently saw me, who acknowledged my existence beyond the periphery of Chloe's spotlight. Finally, someone remembered my presence. "Actually, yes," I responded, a small smile forming, grateful for his brief moment of recognition. I aced my Latin exam. It was really challenging, but I finally mastered the verb conjugations for indirect discourse. "That's nice, dear," Mom interjected quickly, barely registering my accomplishment, her eyes already darting back to Chloe. "Now, about your upcoming cheerleading regional competition. We need to make sure you have everything you need, darling." And just like that, I vanished into the background once more, my small triumph swallowed by the overwhelming presence of my sister's needs. But hey, at least I had my grandparents. They truly understood me, a rare comfort in a home where I often felt like a stranger. They were the only ones who listened to my dreams of exploring ancient ruins and visiting Renaissance art. They encouraged my studies, bought me books on Roman history, and even debated philosophical ideas with me. With them, I wasn't invisible. I was seen, valued, and understood. Later that evening, the house finally quiet. I was in my room, carefully counting the money in my travel fund jar. It was a humble collection of coins and crumpled bills, painstakingly saved from odd jobs and birthday gifts. "Just $200 more to go," I whispered to myself, the words a hopeful murmur against the silence. I'm so incredibly close to affording that incredible trip to Italy I've been dreaming about since I was 8. My imagination soared, picturing myself walking through the Vatican museums, standing beneath the Pantheon's oculus, feeling the weight of centuries of history. A soft, unexpected knock on my door startled me, making me jump. It was my grandmother. "Come in," I called out quickly, swiftly tucking the telltale jar out of sight beneath a pile of textbooks. "Isabella, dear, your grandfather and I have a surprise for you," she announced, her eyes twinkling with excitement. My heart began to pound with anticipation, a frantic flutter against my ribs. Could it be? No way. Grandpa appeared behind her, a wide grin on his face, holding a plain white envelope. We know how incredibly hard you've been working, Isabella, and how much you adore ancient culture and history. He began, his voice warm and sincere, extending the envelope toward me. And we also know you've been saving every penny for something special. My hands trembled slightly as I took it, my fingers fumbling with the seal. Tearing it open, I pulled out the contents and nearly collapsed when I saw what was inside: 2 tickets to the Eternal City. Rome, my dream destination, not just a distant fantasy anymore, but a tangible reality. Oh my goodness, is this actually real? Am I dreaming right now? Please tell me I'm not dreaming. I gasped, my voice barely a whisper, overwhelmed with disbelief and joy. My grandmother chuckled warmly, her eyes crinkling at the corners. It's very real, sweetheart. And you absolutely, truly deserve this, she assured me, pulling me into a gentle hug. I leaped up, throwing my arms around both of them, tears of pure happiness stinging my eyes. Thank you, thank you, thank you. This is the most amazing gift ever. I simply can't believe it. I practically screamed, my voice cracking with emotion. The thought of wandering through ancient ruins, seeing Michelangelo's masterpieces, finally feeling connected to the history I so adored, filled me with an indescribable euphoria. Just at that moment, Chloe, drawn by the commotion, burst into my room without bothering to knock, her phone still clutched in her hand. "What's all this commotion about?" she demanded, her tone already laced with suspicion. I couldn't contain my exploding excitement, my joy bubbling over. "Grandma and Grandpa got me tickets to Rome for graduation," I exclaimed, holding up the precious tickets like a trophy. Chloe's face instantly darkened, a stormy expression settling over her features, transforming from curiosity to bitter envy. "What? But that's so unfair!" she practically shrieked, her voice rising in pitch. "I'm the one who desperately needs a vacation after all the unbelievable stress I've been under. My cheer schedule is grueling and my grades are barely passing." I completely ignored her, too happy to let her poisonous words ruin such a perfect moment, a moment that felt entirely mine. I need to start planning immediately. There's an endless amount to explore. The Colosseum, the Pantheon, the Vatican Museums, the Borghese Gallery, I declared, rattling off a mental list of all the places I'd only ever seen in books. As I enthusiastically described my extensive list of must-visit historical sites, I caught a fleeting glimpse of my parents standing silently in the doorway. They certainly didn't look pleased. Their expressions were a mixture of disapproval and something else I couldn't quite decipher, a hint of concern. But at that moment, I was too overjoyed to care. For the first time in what felt like forever, something truly incredible was happening specifically to me. Something meant only for me, and absolutely nothing was going to bring me down from this cloud 9. I finally felt seen, finally felt rewarded for my efforts, and the world seemed to hold endless possibilities. I woke up the following morning, still buzzing with an incredible high, the feeling of pure elation lingering like a sweet dream. Those precious tickets to the Eternal City were tucked securely beneath my pillow, a tangible promise of adventure. As I prepared for school, a wide, unshakable grin was plastered across my face. I imagined packing my bags, planning my itinerary, perhaps even learning a few more Italian phrases beyond what my Latin class offered. "Isabella, could you please come downstairs?" My mother called up to me, her voice unusually flat. I practically bounded down the stairs, my heart light, fully expecting a cheerful discussion about my upcoming travel plans, maybe even some parental advice on what to pack. Instead, I found my entire family gathered in the living room, a solemn tribunal. My parents sat on the sofa, their faces grim and unusually serious, while Chloe slouched in an armchair, a smug, barely concealed smirk playing on her lips. My grandparents sat quietly to the side, their expressions mirroring my own confusion and a hint of apprehension. "What's happening?" I asked, my smile slowly fading away, a cold knot forming in my stomach. Dad cleared his throat, a nervous habit. "That always signaled uncomfortable conversations. "We've been giving some serious thought to those Roman tickets," he began, avoiding my direct gaze. "Yes, isn't it amazing? I can't wait to. We actually think it would be more beneficial if Chloe went instead," Mom interrupted, cutting me off mid-sentence, her voice firm, leaving no room for debate. The world around me seemed to stop. Time itself froze, the air growing thick and silent. "What?" I managed to stammer, barely able to form the word, my mind struggling to process what I had just heard. It felt like a cruel joke, a punch to the gut. "Chloe has been under an immense amount of pressure lately," Dad explained, finally looking at me, though his eyes held a strange mixture of regret and conviction. "Her academic performance has been slipping. She's been struggling with her cheerleading commitments, and frankly, her social life has been a mess. This trip could genuinely do wonders for her, a much-needed break to get her head straight." He finished, as if this explanation should make perfect sense to me. I turned desperately to my grandparents, my eyes pleading for their support, for someone to intervene. They looked just as stunned and appalled as I felt, their faces mirroring my shock. "But those were my tickets," I stammered, my voice cracking with disbelief and growing anger. "Grandma and Grandpa gave them to me. They were a reward for my hard work, my dedication." Chloe, unable to contain her satisfaction, smirked triumphantly. "Don't be so selfish, Isabella," she sneered, her voice dripping with false concern. "I need this far more than you do. You're always fine, always doing well. I'm the one who's struggling." "This is absolutely not right," my grandfather interjected firmly, his voice rumbling with an uncharacteristic anger. "We specifically gave those tickets to Isabella as a well-deserved reward for all her hard work and academic excellence. She earned them." My mother sighed, exasperated, as if my grandparents were being unreasonable. "Robert, you just don't understand," she argued, turning to my father. "Chloe has been truly struggling, getting into trouble, and we're worried about her future. This could be exactly what she needs to turn her whole life around. A fresh start, a new perspective. And what about Isabella?" my grandmother demanded, her voice rising, finally allowing her indignation to show. "What about her aspirations and dreams? Are they just expendable?" "She'll be fine," Dad dismissed, waving a dismissive hand, a casual flick that erased my feelings, my efforts, my very being. "She's always fine. She'd find another way to go to Italy, eventually." The argument rapidly escalated beyond me, voices growing louder, sharp accusations and justifications flying through the air. I stood there, utterly numb, frozen in place, as my cherished dream shattered into a million insignificant pieces around me. The vibrant images of Rome faded, replaced by the cold, hard reality of my parents' blatant favoritism. "Fine," I finally choked out, my voice barely a whisper, devoid of all emotion. "Take the stupid tickets. I don't care anymore." My voice was flat, empty. I didn't wait for a response. I bolted upstairs, the shock turning into a cold, hard rage. I slammed my bedroom door with all my might, the sound echoing through the house. A final, defiant punctuation marked to their betrayal. Tears streamed down my face as I collapsed onto my bed, sobbing uncontrollably. How could they possibly do this to me? How could they so easily discard my dreams for Chloe's fleeting desires? It felt like a deliberate act of cruelty, a public dismissal of my worth. The next few days passed in a blur of misery and quiet rebellion. I went through the motions at school, a hollow shell of myself. I actively avoided family dinners, choosing instead to eat alone in my room, listening to the muffled sounds of their laughter and conversation downstairs, a bitter reminder of my isolation. I spent the majority of my time barricaded in my room, immersed in my art books, trying to lose myself in the beauty of a world that didn't constantly disappoint me. The tickets, once a beacon of hope, now felt like a heavy weight, a symbol of everything that had been stolen from me. One afternoon, as I mindlessly scrolled through my phone, trying to distract myself from the pervasive sadness, My attention was suddenly snagged by the muffled, yet distinctly angry, voices of my parents arguing in their bedroom. Their door was ajar, and the words floated clearly into the hallway. "We simply cannot continue like this, Robert," my mother hissed, her voice low and furious, laced with a desperation I hadn't heard before. "The credit cards are completely maxed out, utterly drained, and the bank is relentlessly calling about the mortgage. They're threatening foreclosure?" I know, but what other choice do we have?" my father responded, his voice filled with despair, sounding unusually defeated. "We absolutely cannot let Chloe's mistakes ruin her entire future. She has so much potential, she just needs a little push." My ears instantly perked up. Mistakes? What mistakes? This was news to me. I had always assumed Chloe's issues were just typical teenage rebellion. "Perhaps," my mother continued, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper that sent shivers down my spine, "we could dip into Isabella's university fund again. Just for a little while to tide us over until your bonus comes through." I gasped, clamping a hand over my mouth to stifle the sound, my heart leaping into my throat. My university fund. Again? They've been using my money? The realization hit me like a physical blow, a sudden, blinding clarity that cut through the fog of my anger and sadness. Suddenly, every single piece of the puzzle clicked into agonizing place, forming a horrifying picture. The brand new, expensive car Chloe received last year despite her abysmal grades. The incredibly expensive, elite cheerleading summer camp she attended, which cost a small fortune. Her endless, seemingly bottomless shopping sprees for designer clothes and gadgets. My parents' constant financial stress, the hushed phone calls, the sudden, inexplicable loans they always seemed to need. I felt a wave of nausea wash over me, a bitter taste filling my mouth. They had been systematically stealing from me, siphoning away my future, my carefully saved nest egg for education, all to cover Chloe's constant screw-ups and impulsive spending. It wasn't just favoritism. It was financial exploitation, a deep betrayal of trust. That night, sleep was an impossible luxury. My mind raced, bombarded with an onslaught of questions. How long had this betrayal been going on? Years? How much had they actually taken from my fund, piece by piece, without my knowledge or consent? And most crucially, what on earth was I going to do about it? Lying there, staring blankly at the ceiling, the anger simmered, cold and potent. A bold and dangerous plan slowly began to take shape in my mind, a desperate strategy born from betrayal. If they believed they could simply walk all over me, treat me as an ATM for their preferred child, they were in for a very rude awakening. "Two can play this game," I whispered to the silent, suffocating darkness of my room, a grim promise echoing back at me. The next morning, I carefully plastered on a fake, cheerful smile, a mask to hide the simmering volcano of rage beneath, and joined my family for breakfast. Chloe was, as usual, chattering excitedly about her upcoming journey to the Eternal City, completely oblivious to the silent storm brewing. "I'm actually thinking of extending my stay," she announced casually, as if it were a minor detail of no consequence. "Maybe even pop over to Paris too, or perhaps a quick detour to Milan for some shopping." My mother and father exchanged quick, worried glances across the table, their faces betraying their financial strain. I bit my tongue, meticulously filing away this new piece of information, every detail a potential weapon in my arsenal. As I left for school, I made a deliberate detour, a detour that would change everything. It was time to visit the bank and uncover the precise truth about my accounts, the hard evidence of their theft. The game was officially on, and I was absolutely playing to win, no longer a victim. But a strategist thought my visit to the bank was nothing short of a massive revelation, a sickening confirmation of my worst fears. My university fund, the one I'd been building for years, the foundation of my future, was practically barren, almost entirely depleted. The shock was immediate, followed by a surge of furious determination. It was clearly time to bring in the heavy hitters, someone with the skills I lacked. "Liam, I urgently need your help," I said, cornering my closest friend by his locker, my voice low and urgent. "What's up, Izzy?" "You look like you've seen a ghost," he replied, concern etched on his face, noticing my uncharacteristic intensity. I lowered my voice even further, leaning closer so only he could hear. "I need you to hack into my parents' financial records," I whispered, the words feeling foreign and dangerous on my tongue. Liam's eyes widened dramatically, his usual laid-back demeanor replaced by shock. "Whoa, that's incredibly serious. What on earth is going on?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. I poured out everything: the stolen travel tickets, the horrifying, incriminating conversation overheard, the gut-wrenching discovery of my empty university fund, the years of subtle favoritism suddenly made brutally clear. Liam listened intently, his expression growing more grave with each passing second, his jaw tightening. "I'm in," he finally stated, his voice firm, his loyalty unwavering. "Meet me at the community library right after classes. We'll need a quiet, secure place." For the entire following week, Liam and I dedicated every spare moment to meticulously digging through my family's complex financial dealings. Hours after school, armed with this coding expertise and my growing understanding of financial statements, we burrowed deep into digital ledgers, bank accounts, and credit card statements. What we uncovered made my stomach churn with disgust, a cold wave of revulsion washing over me. "Look at this," Liam pointed at his laptop screen, his finger tracing lines of data across a complex spreadsheet. "Your father has been systematically siphoning funds from the family business accounts for years, disguising them as operational expenses and client entertainment." I leaned in, squinting at the dense columns of numbers, trying to make sense of the dizzying figures. But where is all of it going? I asked, bewildered, the scale of the deception starting to sink in. Liam clicked open another window, revealing a series of credit card statements and loan documents. "It appears most of it has been funneled into covering Chloe's mounting expenses, outstanding credit card balances that were continuously maxed out, multiple car payments for vehicles that vanished after a few months, even bail money from several different precincts." "Bail money?" I gasped, my voice sharp with disbelief. A new layer of horror added to the revelation. What on earth has she been involved in? As we delved even deeper into the digital labyrinth of their finances, the situation grew increasingly grim and disturbing. My father had been manipulating the financial records of his small consulting firm, constantly cooking the books to hide the illicit transfers. He had been taking out highly questionable, high-interest loans from shady lenders, and even dabbling in some decidedly illicit side hustles, gambling debts, questionable investments, all in a desperate, frantic attempt to maintain Chloe's extravagant lifestyle and manage their escalating personal debts. The picture that emerged was one of a family teetering on the edge of financial collapse, propped up by stolen funds and increasingly desperate measures. "This is absolutely insane," I muttered, running my hands through my hair in frustration, feeling the weight of their deception settling heavily upon me. What am I supposed to do with all this incriminating information? It's my own family. Liam met my gaze, a long, steady look that held both understanding and a challenge. "You know what you have to do, Easy," he said quietly, his voice firm, but not accusatory. "This can't go on. It's not just about your money. It's about their integrity and, frankly, Chloe's uncontrolled behavior." I didn't know deep down, but the thought of exposing my own parents, turning them over to the authorities, bringing their carefully constructed facade crashing down, made me feel physically ill. The weight of such a decision was monumental. That night, sleep was a distant memory. I tossed and turned endlessly in my bed, agonizing over my limited, painful options. On one hand, they were my family, bound by blood, even if that bond felt poison now. On the other, they had systematically stolen my future, mercilessly betrayed my trust, and flagrantly broken the law not just once, but repeatedly. They had prioritized Chloe's destructive whims over my legitimate aspirations. By morning after Hours of internal struggle, a cold, unwavering resolve settled over me. My decision was solidified. It was time to take definitive action, not just for myself, but to halt the destructive cycle they were caught in. My first stop the next morning was my grandparents' house. I arrived early, unable to wait. I meticulously laid out every single detail Liam and I had uncovered, presenting the cold, hard facts of the financial records, the documented transfers, the credit card statements. "I simply can't believe it," my grandmother whispered, tears welling in her eyes, her face etched with disbelief and profound sadness. How could they ever do something like this? Their own daughter and Chloe ... My grandfather's face was grim, a mask of controlled anger and deep disappointment. He gripped his hands tightly in his lap. "What do you require from us, Isabella?" he asked, his voice steady, betraying no hesitation. "Your unwavering support," I stated, my voice quivering slightly, "and perhaps a safe place to stay when everything inevitably falls apart, because it will." They agreed without a moment's hesitation, their loyalty absolute, a comfort that grounded me in the storm. Next, armed with their support, I approached Miss Davies, my favorite literature teacher. I knew she was a woman of integrity and profound wisdom, and I desperately needed an impartial adult on my side who wasn't emotionally entangled as family members were. I scheduled a discreet meeting during her free period, explaining the gravity of the situation in hushed tones, presenting the summarized evidence Liam had compiled. "This is an extremely serious situation, Isabella," she said, her expression solemn. After I had painstakingly explained everything, she looked at me with deep concern. "Are you absolutely certain you wish to proceed with this course of action? The consequences will be far-reaching for everyone involved, especially your family." I nodded, my resolve firm, despite the tremor in my hands. "I have to, for my own future, Miss Davies. My university fund is gone, and truthfully, for Chloe's as well. This destructive cycle cannot continue. It's ruining everyone, including them." Miss Davies sighed, a heavy sound that filled the quiet classroom. She understood the weight of my decision. "All right, Isabella. This is beyond my usual scope, but I will assist you in any way I possibly can, discreetly and ethically," she promised, her commitment a powerful affirmation. With my allies firmly in place, knowing I wasn't alone, Liam and I began to meticulously formulate our elaborate plan for the public exposure. "We need to amass irrefutable evidence," Liam emphasized, his technical mind already at work. "Something they simply cannot squirm their way out of, a confession that will stand up to scrutiny." I thought for a moment, an idea sparking, combining opportunity with the need for public accountability. "The extended family gathering next month," I proposed, my voice gaining strength. "Everyone will be there, including Dad's most important business associates and our distant relatives." "It's the perfect stage," Liam grinned, a spark of cunning in his eyes. "Perfect. We can strategically place tiny, unnoticeable hidden cameras and microphones throughout the main entertaining areas. Perhaps even orchestrate a situation to coax some of them into incriminating themselves on tape, or at least reacting in a way that confirms the truth," he mused, already envisioning the technical setup. As we meticulously ironed out the intricate details over the next few weeks, mapping out camera angles, sound checks, and potential conversation triggers. A complex mix of exhilaration and dread churned in my stomach. This was truly happening. There was no turning back now. The planning itself was intense, requiring covert trips to stores for equipment, late-night strategizing sessions, and the constant fear of being discovered. We reviewed every possible scenario, every potential objection, trying to anticipate their reactions. "Are you okay?" Liam asked one evening, noticing my contemplative, slightly anxious expression as we finalized the blueprint. I took a deep, steadying breath, trying to calm the frantic beat of my heart. "Yeah," I replied, my voice a little shaky. "It's just ... Once we initiate this, once the truth is out, there's absolutely no turning back. Everything will change forever. Our family will be shattered beyond repair." Liam gently squeezed my hand, offering reassurance and unwavering solidarity. "Sometimes, Isabella," he said quietly, his gaze steady, "change is not just necessary, but vital. You're doing this because you have to, for your own future, and to stop a cycle of destruction. You've got this, Izzy. I'm right here with you." I nodded, closing my eyes for a moment, steeling myself for the monumental task ahead, drawing strength from his unwavering support. The countdown to the family gathering and the most significant, terrifying yet necessary confrontation of my entire life had officially begun. Every passing day brought me closer to the precipice of no return. The day of the large family gathering finally arrived, draped in an unsettling normalcy that felt entirely wrong. My heart was pounding relentlessly in my chest, a frantic drumbeat. Against my ribs, each throb a reminder of the monumental secret I carried. Liam and I dedicated weeks to meticulously setting everything up, leaving no detail to chance. Tiny, imperceptible cameras were strategically positioned throughout the main entertaining areas, the living room, the dining room, even a discreet one near the outdoor patio. We had triple-checked the audio feeds, ensuring every whisper would be caught. We had a foolproof contingency plan to expose every single dark secret, a carefully constructed trap designed for maximum impact. As various relatives, some genuinely warm, others simply nosy, and my father's most important business associates began to trickle in, filling the house with artificial cheer and polite chatter, I forced a bright, artificial smile onto my face. A mask I hoped was impenetrable. "Wonderful to see you, Aunt Eleanor. How's your bridge game going these days?" I chirped, feigning normalcy, shaking hands, exchanging pleasantries, my mind buzzing with the plan. Meanwhile, Chloe was holding court in the main living area, oblivious, as always, to the impending storm. She was loudly boasting about her upcoming European adventure, a trip bought with my stolen future. "It's going to be absolutely incredible. I'm thinking of starting in Rome, then maybe moving on to Paris, and I might even decide to stay for an entire month. Just living it up, darling," she gushed, her voice carrying through the room, her laughter echoing. I observed my mother and father exchanging tense, worried glances across the room. The cost of Chloe's grand plans was clearly weighing on them, a silent anxiety they couldn't hide. Their expressions alone were almost enough to confirm what I already knew. It was showtime. The moment I had been planning, dreading, and simultaneously anticipating had arrived. I moved to the center of the living room, picking up a decorative crystal glass from a nearby table. I gently clinked it with a fork, the delicate sound cutting through the ambient chatter and drawing everyone's attention to me. A hush slowly fell over the room, all eyes turning in my direction, curious. "I'd like to propose a toast," I announced, my voice clear and surprisingly steady despite the tremor in my hands. I looked directly at my parents, then at Chloe, my gaze unwavering. "To family," I began, a hint of irony in my tone, and to the truth that ultimately binds us all together. With that dramatic preamble, I gave Liam a subtle nod, a fleeting glance that only he would understand. From a discreet corner of the room, he promptly hit play on his laptop. Suddenly, the large television screen, which had moments before been displaying a looped slideshow of family photos, flickered and then illuminated with startling clarity. It wasn't vacation pictures. Instead, rows and rows of damning financial documents, ledger entries, and digital transfers filled the screen alongside grainy but clear recordings of hushed, incriminating conversations. My father's face, usually so composed, instantly drained, of all color, turning a ghastly ashen pale. His eyes darted frantically between the screen and me. What is this? "Isabella, what are you doing?" he stammered, his voice laced with panic and a growing terror. "This," I stated, my voice quivering slightly but imbued with unwavering, icy determination, "is the unvarnished truth about where our family's money has truly been disappearing. It's the truth about stolen funds, fraudulent loans, and the consequences of reckless behavior." The room instantly erupted into utter pandemonium. The polite murmurs transformed into a cacophony of shocked gasps, furious shouts, and frantic whispers. My father's most important business partners, whose faces were now etched with a mixture of betrayal and outrage, were on their feet, shouting, furiously demanding immediate explanations, their reputations now on the line. "Robert, what is the meaning of this? We need answers." One boomed. My Aunt Deborah, a usually stoic woman, openly gasped and then buried her face in her hands, openly weeping at the devastating spectacle. And Chloe, her face contorted with a mixture of confusion and pure fury, was in the midst of a full-blown, ear-splitting meltdown, her self-centered world crumbling before her eyes. "You can't do this to me, Isabella. This is a setup. You're ruining everything," she shrieked, her voice shrill with hysteria, completely unaware of the implications of her next words. "How am I supposed to afford my driving under influence defense? Lawyer now, or pay off that new credit card I just opened?" The room, which had been a maelstrom of noise, suddenly fell into a stunned, deafening silence. Every single head swiveled to face Chloe, eyes wide with fresh shock. My mother, who had been staring at the financial records with a look of defeated horror, now looked up, her gaze fixed on Chloe with a dawning terror. "Chloe, what DUI?" she whispered, her voice barely audible, but carrying clearly in the sudden. "Still, miss." Chloe's eyes widened dramatically, realizing too late the catastrophic slip-up, the complete self-incrimination. She tried to backtrack, stammering incoherent excuses, her face a mask of panic. But it was nothing, Mom, just a misunderstanding." But it was far too late. The floodgates of confession had irrevocably opened, and she couldn't stop herself. Chloe proceeded to blurt out every single misdeed, a torrent of confessions, pouring from her lips. The reckless drunk driving incident from months ago that had been covered up, the multiple instances of shoplifting high merchandise from department stores, the insidious credit card fraud where she opened accounts, and my parents' names without their full knowledge. With every damning word she uttered, my mother and father looked increasingly defeated, their shoulders slumping in despair, their faces a mixture of shame and utter defeat. Their carefully constructed house of cards had finally collapsed, and their golden child was exposing the rotten foundation. Suddenly, the distinct, mournful wail of police sirens pierced the quiet evening from the distance. Growing louder, closer, Miss Davies had come through, discreetly alerting the authorities at the most opportune moment imaginable, ensuring there would be no escape. As uniformed law enforcement officers entered the room, their presence imposing, systematically reading off warrants of removal and fastening cold. Metallic handcuffs, I felt an odd, complex mix of profound relief and deep, aching sadness. This was undeniably justice, raw and unyielding, but it was also the undeniable, irrevocable end of my family as I had always known it, a painful severing of ties. My grandfather, his eyes filled with a mixture of pride and sorrow, gently placed, his arm around my trembling shoulders, pulling me into a comforting embrace. "You did the right thing, Isabella," he murmured, his voice thick with emotion, his warmth a much-needed anchor. "We are so incredibly proud of you for your courage." The subsequent months blurred into a whirlwind of relentless legal proceedings, a confusing and emotionally draining maze of court dates, lawyer meetings, and media scrutiny. Both my father facing charges related to financial fraud and embezzlement from his business, and Chloe, implicated in DUI, shoplifting, and credit card fraud, faced serious charges. Their carefully constructed lives, built on deception and indulgence, crumbled under the weight of the evidence. My mother, who had been aware of some of the financial distress but less directly involved in the criminal activities, managed to receive probation due to her comparatively lesser role in her cooperation with authorities. It was a stark reminder of the long-term consequences of their choices. Through it all, my grandparents remained my unwavering pillars of strength, my absolute rock in the storm. They attended every court hearing with me, provided a sanctuary of peace in their home, and offered endless emotional support. One quiet evening, several months into the legal fallout, my grandmother softly suggested, her voice gentle but firm, How would you feel, dear, about us becoming your legal guardians? We want to ensure your stability and your future are secure, free from any further ... complications. I looked at her, then at my grandfather, tears welling in my eyes. The offer was a lifeline, a true home when my old one had become toxic. I hugged her tightly, the warmth of her embrace a balm to my bruised soul. I would love that more than anything, I choked out, my voice thick with gratitude. It was a genuine chance to finally build a life on honesty and support. As the tumultuous dust eventually settled, and the court rulings were finalized, something truly unexpected transpired, a silver lining in the dark clouds. The presiding judge, having reviewed the full scope of the financial misappropriations, issued an order mandating the immediate return of all stolen funds. This miraculously included the entirety of my university savings, now fully restored and untouched. And remember those tickets to the Eternal City? The court ruled that they were once again rightfully mine, a symbol of reclaiming my dreams. So, that summer, instead of languishing in self-pity over shattered dreams and a broken family, I found myself joyfully strolling through the majestic Roman Forum with my beloved grandparents. The ancient stones beneath my feet felt real, tangible, a far cry from the abstract history lessons. I ate delicious gelato, the cool sweetness a contrast to the bitter past, celebrating not just a trip, but a new beginning, a profound personal triumph. My grandfather, his eyes twinkling with pride, raised his own gelato cone in a mock toast. To justice, he declared with a warm smile, and to excellent gelato. A perfect combination. I grinned. The sentiment perfect, the future finally bright. Fast forward a few years, and my life looks dramatically, wonderfully different now. The chaos and betrayal of the past seem like a distant, vivid dream, a lesson learned rather than a wound constantly festering. I'm currently thriving in my junior year at a prestigious art university, a place where my passion for history and art is not just tolerated, but celebrated and nurtured. I spend my days immersed in art history seminars, studio classes, and researching ancient techniques. I'm even interning at a renowned gallery downtown, gaining invaluable experience in the art world, surrounded by beauty and creativity. Biggest news, though, is that my very first solo exhibition is slated for next month, a culmination of years of hard work, a testament to my resilience and dedication. It feels surreal, a dream I didn't even dare to fully articulate, now becoming reality. Meanwhile, life has dealt its consequences to those who caused so much pain. My father is serving his sentence, facing the repercussions of his financial crimes. My mother is working a minimum wage job, struggling to make ends meet, the harsh reality of their choices weighing heavily on her. And Chloe, from what I last heard through distant family members, is painstakingly working her way through community college, no longer shielded from the consequences of her reckless behavior. She's finally facing the music, dealing with the realities of responsibility, and the lack of unlimited funds. I hear she's struggling, and for the first time, I don't feel a pang of jealousy or resentment, just a quiet sense of karmic balance. Is for me. My gaze is firmly fixed on the horizon, filled with ambition and excitement. I'm already meticulously planning my next adventure to Italy, not just as a tourist, but as a scholar. This time, I'll be studying for my master's degree in art conservation in the breathtaking city of Florence, delving deeper into the very subjects that sustained me. During my darkest hours, it turns out that sometimes the painful, shattering loss of one dream can paradoxically lead you to discover an even more extraordinary and fulfilling one. My journey wasn't easy, and it certainly wasn't pretty. It was messy, emotional, and fraught with difficult decisions. But ultimately, standing up for yourself, for your values, for your future is always worth it in the end. It's about reclaiming your narrative and building a life on your own terms.